Welcome to this week's Real Estate Weekly Lesson. I'm Greg Helbeck, and today we're going to do a lesson on why it really doesn't make sense to scale a real estate business when you have a lot of volume. And I'm going to break down an alternative you can do to be more profitable and still make a bunch of money. So if you're not familiar with me, I've been a full-time real estate guy for over 10 years now. I've done well over 325 houses, done this in multiple markets that are very expensive. So if you get value from this video, if this resonates with you, or if you're listening to this on the audio platforms, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the audio. And let's get into today's lesson. So we're going to talk about scaling a business and doing volume and why in this industry it doesn't make any sense. So there's a couple schools of thought. You can do a lot of volume in this business and have lower margins, or you can do less volume and have higher margins. And in my opinion, doing less volume and having higher margins makes a lot more sense in this industry because of a few things. The first thing is that there's a lot of volatility in this business when it comes to your revenue because you can do all the right things for a very long time and you can get 10 houses under contract and you can have 8 of those houses fall out of contract for certain reasons. The sellers change their mind, the buyers bail, there can be a title issue on the property, and that revenue that you projected will ultimately turn into zero. So let's say you have 10 houses under contract and you were supposed to make 500 grand on those 10 houses. And now half of those closings just evaporated. Now you're making $250,000 because 5 of those contracts got canceled and your expenses didn't change because you have to spend the same amount of money every month. And now all of a sudden you're in a cash crunch, right? Because you most likely are operating at a 50% margin or less. So instead of making 500 grand in gross revenue and netting half, you just basically broke even. So when you do volume, this is what happens. Because when you're spending money in marketing at scale, you have to keep spending more to make more, and you're going to ultimately run into a cash problem. And even if you're wholesaling, this still is a thing. You're spending money on Google or you're spending money on mail, and you're getting deals under contract, which is awesome, but you're going to always have this fallout with your contracts. Like that's the reality in this business. So when you're doing a lot of volume, it ultimately becomes like diminishing returns. And you get yourself in this situation where you're on like this deal hamster wheel and you feel like you're not making any money because you have all this overhead. You have 5 salespeople you have to pay. You got 3 transaction coordinators. You turn this business into something that it shouldn't be. Trust me, you're not netting as much as you probably could if you had a small team or if you were a solopreneur. The people that I know in this business that make the most money net have either no employees or a handful of employees. And every employee makes a bunch of money. So the reason this business stinks to scale is because of the unforeseen things when you have properties under contract and the fact that you have to consistently keep spending on marketing in order to get more business. And a lot of that business doesn't turn into revenue. So that's the reason it makes no sense to scale at volume. When I say volume, I'm talking like 150, 250, 300 deals a year. I mean, that gets crazy. I mean, you could technically do it, but you're really not in the real estate business at that point. You're in a sales business. So in my opinion, and this is what I've been doing, and this is what people that I know who net a lot of money have been doing, is you want to be in a sweet spot. I think, and obviously people are going to disagree with me here, if you can do 15 to 60 deals a year and maximize those deals, that's the sweet spot for a good real estate business. Like last year we did 45 deals. The year before that we did 45 deals. We keep increasing our revenue and increasing our profit every year. And what we're doing is we're keeping the volume the same, but we're trying to change the variable, which is the average profit per deal. So we're trying to basically do the same amount of volume, but make more money on each of those transactions. And I believe that's the way you want to do it in this business, is because when you can keep your volume the same, you can try to keep your marketing costs the same, and then you can try to get better at optimizing your marketing, whether that's converting more sellers, getting more money for your wholesale deals. You know, maybe it's rehabbing the houses. Instead of making 30 grand on a wholesale, you make 70 grand on a rehab. But if you keep the volume the same and you try to optimize each deal, you're going to be able to ultimately net more money and have less chaos. Because if you have 45 transactions, that's a lot of moving parts. Trust me, I've been doing it for years. But then you want to double your business by doubling your volume, and then you have 90 transactions, right? Now you're entering into no man's land where you have to hire more people. The ball is going to get dropped. People are going to have too many things to do. It becomes a management nightmare. And if you're really going to close 90 deals, you probably got to lock up about 130 because you're going to have that fallout, like I mentioned. So the sweet spot in this business is being in between 15 and 60 deals a year. And obviously that's market dependent. If you're in Seattle, you can do 15. If you're in, Kansas City, I would imagine you're going to have to do 50 to 60 because your margins are going to be lower because it's cheaper. But that's the way to keep optimizing for profitability, because the truth of the matter is that these businesses, these wholesaling businesses or these rehabbing businesses, they are not sellable and they're not valuable. They're not worth anything. You can't go sell your flipping business to someone else for 3x the multiple. That's just not going to happen. These businesses are not worth anything except for the cash flow that they produce on a monthly basis. So, if you could sell your wholesaling business for 5x the gross revenue, you could scale your business and it would make sense because you're ultimately going to sell it for a multiple, but people don't sell wholesaling businesses. They're not worth anything. It's ultimately just a ATM machine to feed yourself and your team. And hopefully you're smart with your money and you're saving it. You're buying investment properties, which ultimately are sellable. And those are real assets that are worth something. And you can automate it. You can have it run without you. And you don't need to do 100 deals to have that be the case. I know guys who have a 50 deal a year operation and they have minimal involvement and they're making net 7 figures. So trust me, take my advice on this. More deals does not mean more money. Don't listen to these people online who tell you got to do 100 deals a year or else you suck. That's completely false. I bet you those people doing the 100 deals a year are not netting as much as you think. And hopefully this video was helpful, because I see a lot of people who want to scale up this big business and they ultimately, scale themselves into, the gutter. So if you got value from this, do me a favor, like it, subscribe. And if you are in the Seattle market or the Hudson Valley market or the Delaware market, those are the 3 areas that we do our business in. So if you have a wholesale house that you want to sell to me, or if you have a deal that you want to maybe wholesale with us as a partnership perspective, send me an email, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com. I'd love to look at the deal. I just looked at a wholesale deal this morning and made an offer on it, and I got a 50-50 chance of getting it. So if you got something, send it to me via email, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com, and I'll see you on the next real estate deal breakdown. I hope you enjoyed this.